Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Marquette Hoops Basketball Show on My 24 with the great John Dodds and our marvelous producer, Jason Ruck. I'm Tom Pippins. Delighted to be back with you and delighted to have Tony Award-winning actor Anthony Crivello. He said among friends we can call him Tony. Marquette grad, former cheerleader for a year. The stories abound. JD will get into that with Tony coming up. But we want to talk about your marvelous performance. It's coming back. Your one actor play, the one-person play called McGuire.
Right.
Please chat about that.
The show is roughly about 85, 90 minutes long. This production is going to be at the Next Act Theater. Tickets are available at www.nextact.org.
Okay.
This is a brand new production of the show. We've got a few extra touches that we have put into the show as far as dialogue, with the approval of Barbara Enberg, Dick Enberg's lovely wife.
And of course, Dick, the former colleague and great friend of Al McGuire, wrote the
absolutely,
play.
and Hall of Fame broadcaster,
Yes.
and so many beloved in the industry by so many. Not only for basketball, but as we know with Dick's reputation, Olympics, football, baseball. I mean, he's a tremendous man. It was tremendous to work with him as well. But so this new production as well, we've got a new creative team. Edward Morgan is our director. New lighting design, new projections that we're going to be using as well. A slightly different configuration of set because we have now at the Next Act Theater, it's going to be in what's called a half round. And so it's literally a situation where the audience, if I go to the edge of the stage, literally I'm about, I'd say maybe 4 feet from the nearest audience member. I advise people to get tickets early because the Next Act only seats 152. So we've got a run that's going to go from, we have a preview on the 14th of June, 15th we open, and we run to the 31st.
July. That's
This
July.
is of July. Sorry, July.
July 14th through 31st
That's
of this
correct.
year, McGuire.
Correct.
At Next Act Theater. I can't wait. I got to see you back in the day perform. I don't know how it can get any better, but I'm going to trust that will be the case.
It is, I'll tell you, it's a tribute to Dick, too. The text and what he put together. Let me say a little story about how this all came to be. When Al had passed away, his wife Pat had approached Dick and said, would you do the eulogy at the service, which was going to be held at Jesu Church? And Dick said, of course I would do it. And then said to himself, geez, how do I encapsulate the life of Al McGuire? How do I do this? He went in and started doing as Dick would, because he was so old school and such a professional. Went in and started accessing books that had been written about Al, etc., and started pulling quotes and talking to friends and pulling quotes and stories and things like that. And specifically what Al had said. And he thought to himself, geez, who better to speak for Al McGuire than Al McGuire? And so the eulogy was a series of quotes and philosophies that Al had espoused over his entire life. From there, he had all this material. He said, I have to do something with this. And as Dick had said repeatedly, Al McGuire was probably the most unique human being he had ever met in his life, and there was nobody in second place. Yeah. And so that then turned into a culmination of putting together what was at the time, a 55-minute performance that was done first at the Hellfair Theater on Marquette's campus and then in a few other individual places. And then from there, what happened was the idea was to expand the show and try and do it again. I got involved with it and actually met with Dick in La Jolla. Dick started telling me stories about Al and being on the road with Billy Packer, their days at NBC and broadcasting days. And growing up in Milwaukee, as I did, I was a huge Marquette fan during that particular era and beyond. And I knew of a few stories about Al as well. And so I said to Dick, why are these stories not incorporated into the show? And Dick was the type of individual that he was. Always wanted to be and he was of everybody, respectful of all individuals. And treated people, same thing with Barbara. They're just beautiful people. And Dick, God rest his soul, unfortunately passed away.
Mm-hmm. He and Al are telling stories in heaven, aren't they?
You got that right. You got that right. And I'm sure he's got a captive audience in St. Peter and the Angels. And so it is there were few things that were added that added the human touch of who Al McGuire was. Like all of us, a flawed man and who has his Achilles heels. But the thing about Al McGuire as well, which is, and this is with the new version that Dick wrote and we helped to put together, it makes him so much more human. And what happens with the audience is that you see and hear the philosophies that McGuire espoused, and you realize that some of us, again, you're seeing Al McGuire in the limelight, and you're thinking, here is a blessed life, but at the same time, like I said, he also had his human side, and for any act of what you might call infamy, there were 10 acts of benevolence, and to this day, as we know, with Al McGuire, Al's Run is still going in Milwaukee and raising money for Milwaukee Children's Hospital. That's just one example of the type of man that he was. That was, again, started by Al and obviously supported by the McGuire family now.
He is a graduate of Thomas More High School, right?
Yep.
Right, absolutely. We're talking about Anthony Crivello. He played Valentin in Kiss of the Spider Woman and The Masked One and Phantom of the Opera,
yep.
And now this incredible one-person performance by the former Marquette University cheerleader who has a story about it. John Dodds is going to get into all that, but I need to let you know that we wouldn't have the opportunity to have Tony with us and this show without our proud sponsor. That, of course, is Moonlight Graham, Modern Dental Benefits. Moonlight Graham, proud sponsor of the Marquette Hoops basketball show. You talk about trying to encapsulate him a little bit of the dark side. I would love to hear. It was done tastefully, though, right?
Yes.
As you say, we're all human beings. We all fall short. What I saw, what you did, and I can't wait, to hear about and see the new improved version, if it can possibly be, because I think you encapsulated him. You were Al McGuire out there. How in the world? I know you have a gift for it, but how did you do that?
Well, again, if somebody might look at me right now and say that guy is playing Al McGuire, well, that's the magic of theater. A little hair dye and a little shave and a few things that gets me closer to it.
You got the hair. I admire that.
And so I'm actually my hair was a little bit shorter. I'm growing it out for Al. I get that 1977
that's right.
look. And then it is literally the advantage that an actor has these days is that you have the internet and you have all of these historical photos. So what you can do is you can recreate the behavior. You study the behavior, you study the inflections, you study the way that coach spoke. And then you sort of, they're building blocks to incorporate getting the essence of who Al McGuire was. Then you've got this wonderful dialogue. 85% of the piece are literal quotes from Al. And so you're just applying them to an audience and the specifics of it. His philosophy and his views on life, as we all know, back in those years, Harley Davidson had given him a motorcycle, and Al would be riding that motorcycle all over town. There was many people, and I mean, have experienced this after doing the role, and after performances where people would come up and say, I have an Al McGuire story.
Yeah.
I have an Al McGuire story. Because he was all over the city of Milwaukee. And that part of that was espoused by the fact that Al's philosophy, which is this is inside the dialogue of the play, is that in his life he would make right turns. And you go, right turn, well, what does that mean? Well, his philosophy was that if you take a left turn, he would go to downtown Milwaukee, where it'd be concrete, mahogany tables and sports coats with elbow patches and filet mignon and plastic. But if you take a right turn, you're going out into the country, which is Pewaukee and Oconomowoc, alfalfa, sawdust, plaid shirt, can of beer, ham sandwich. Each day, he has a decision which way to go. And he would say, and as God's my judge, once a month, I hang a right. Yeah. That kind of philosophy is what, I got chills just saying that, is what he would tell people as well. It's one of the reasons, too, that Dick Enberg was so fascinated by him. Because he would always say to him, Dixie, right. People are going to take advantage of you with the way you walk, you go through life. You got to protect yourself. It is, and I tell you, I went to Dick's memorial, which was held at the Padres Stadium, and Billy Packard started relaying stories as well. He got up and spoke, and I just hysterical, wonderful stories. I mean, and you have to hand it to NBC at that time. That trio, putting that trio together, which was unconventional, and Dick would openly say that initially when he met McGuire as a sports broadcaster and then having to interview him, didn't like him.
Yeah.
He didn't like the man, and then didn't quite understand him. Putting him together, then understanding what these philosophies were and the way that Al lived his life, saw that, at the end of that particular rainbow, there's nothing but good. And it's nothing but good for the individual, And
they became like this.
Oh,
didn't they?
and as you know,
friends.
I mean, that model for how they operated, again, it was Billy and Dick initially thinking that, we're having differing opinions. And people thought that Billy and Dick didn't like each other. That was a farthest thing from the truth. They all got along, with getting along in their own
there was
individual
some theater
ways.
going on, wasn't there?
Absolutely. And he was relaying those stories, and some of those kinds of stories are contained in the play now as well.
If we don't get enough John Dodds in this program,
Yeah.
even though we have you as a guest, the ratings go down when I dominate. So I've got to get it to him. But I do want to mention again, McGuire coming to Next Act Theater July 14 through 31. You have got to see it with
And
the
let
gifted
me say,
Anthony Crivello.
Heiser Automotive is our main sponsor right
Okay.
now, and it's really, you need that main sponsor to get launched, and Heiser Automotive is behind this, and we're very grateful for that.
Of course, that reminds me, you can never say it enough. We're thankful to our sponsor,
There you
right?
go.
Moonlight
Moonlight
Graham,
Graham.
proud sponsor of the Marquette basketball show here on My 24. They are Modern Dental Benefits, Moonlight Graham. One question, and then on to JD to talk about 1975 Marquette, some basketball stories that Al told you. What is it like to be Al McGuire for that amount of time on stage, because you did become Al McGuire?
It's, as I've said repeatedly, it's quite a load to strap this individual on your back, but it is extremely rewarding. It is, the show itself is almost 90 minutes long. Wow. And one actor on stage, 30. It's roughly about 36 pages of nonstop dialogue, and but the thing about it is the wit and wisdom of Al, and what Dick had put on the page, marvelously so, it's just wonderful. And the idea in the performing as well is that it is like you're in an intimate setting inside a room with people, not only talking basketball but philosophy and life. And this is the other wonderful thing that happened repeatedly. I had reluctant wives and girlfriends who they thought, somewhat dragged to the theater, thinking that they were going to go see a play about basketball. It is so much more than that. And what they would do is come to the theater and after the performance, come up to me and say, I had no idea that this was Al McGuire's life. This goes back to the whole idea of the common man. In this version, we see the common man, but we also see how much good and the inner struggle and how Al constantly is overcoming as well. There is no doubt about it. It was a blessed life, but and living in the limelight. But Al McGuire too was at heart a common man. That's why you hear these the stories about the man who would go into the antique store looking for tin soldiers.
Yes.
Wonderful stuff.
Absolutely. All right, John Dodds, you're on.
Thanks for the build-up.
You got to live up to it now. Come on, John.
we want to thank Tim Thyssen.
Yep, Tim Thyssen, is my buddy. We have a common buddy who gave us the introduction as well.
Right.
No
for
doubt
bringing
about it.
Here.
Who you had a long history of basketball as well with.
Yeah, he was a Don Bosco guy.
Right.
And when they merged with Thomas More, you were a Pianono
I was
guy.
Pianono, and that's how we met.
And we'd like to thank Bob Reck for...
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt. Rec Entertainment was the one, and again, the way that happened was Bob was an old childhood friend of a cousin of mine, and I was performing at the Festa Italiana. Bob knew I was in town, and he had asked my cousin, Fred Rondinelli, said, what's going on with McGuire? And he said, nothing. It seems like, right now it's a little bit dormant. And he said, geez, I would, Bob had a history of being the entertainment director at the Potawatomi Casino, Northern Lights room, for 19 years. And so, and now Bob has gone off on his own with his son Simon and started Rec Entertainment. And Bob said, geez, I would like I'd like to produce that show. And so he put him in touch with me. I put Bob in touch with Barbara. We had a meeting in La Jolla, and Barbara was impressed. And Bob's background had done a lot of promotion at the time at the Northern Lights Casino and beyond of top acts, bands, and also comedians, including Don Rickles, one of my favorites.
Absolutely.
And so, but he had also done some theater. As well, produced a couple of theater shows. John McGivern's show. Bob is the main producer for John McGivern now, and all of his shows as well. And so he had some little bit of experience also producing theater, and then slowly with Rec Entertainment, we've put together, and he's been obviously instrumental, both he and Simon, of putting together the building blocks to put this show together in a brand new inception.
Well, great. Thank you for being here. We appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure.
When I was listening to you, I remember the best description I've ever heard of Al McGuire was from a New York Times reporter, and he said, Al McGuire is the type of guy who will pick your pocket, and as you're walking away, tap you on the shoulder, hand you your wallet back, and say, "You got to be more careful."
It's exactly that is right. That is exactly what Coach Al would be saying to Dick. Yeah. I mean, it's that kind of philosophy. You got to be more careful. But absolutely.
You came. I first met you in 2018 before a DePaul game. Dick Enberg came back to Milwaukee with the play, and you had just started it, and there was a press conference beforehand. And I had mentioned this to Dick.
At the old Bradley Center, I believe it was.
At the Bradley Center. And I mentioned it to Dick, and he had forgotten this, but when Al died, ESPN Classic put the 2 Final Four games back-to-back on, and in the middle, sandwiched, they had the interview of Billy Packer, Dick Enberg, and Al McGuire on that Sunday. So it was, and you could just, the chemistry of those three just jumped right out.
Absolutely.
And so they ESPN played that between the games, and so Billy and Dick are there, and so Billy's here, Dick's here, you're Al, and he said, so Al, North Carolina, wow, Phil Ford and Walter Davis, what are you going to do? And Al said, wow, Phil Ford, he's a pro's pro, and he's a man's man. Walter Davis, he's tough. We'll probably put Neary on him to begin with because Neary is expendable. And Dick Enberg started laughing, and Billy Packer started laughing, and they couldn't stop laughing that a college coach said that one of his players was expendable.
Is going to foul and foul.
I don't know what Neary thought about that.
And only Al going.
The next day, I'm walking down Wisconsin Avenue, and who's coming up Wisconsin Avenue? Bill Neary.
Oh, my.
So I said, hey, there's Bill Neary. He's expendable. And he just said, just after that, he's watching with his family, and when they made the announcements of the starting lineups, he's 6'5", he's from Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, Bill Neary, and he said his kids just went, Dad, that's you.
Yeah.
So then he went from being expendable to being the big man on campus.
And John,
with his
you
family.
know that Marquette doesn't win it all, perhaps, without Neary. You needed that kind of a nuts and bolts player.
Alan Majerus would always say, or Majerus would quote Alan and say, I have 5 number 1 picks, but there's only 1 ball. Yeah. There's got to be some guy who sets a pick, makes a pass, and that's where Bill Neary fit in, because everybody would be screaming for Bernard Toone to be playing in that era. But you tell the famous story of you were a cheerleader. Mm-hmm. Actually, tell us how you have to be athletic to be a cheerleader, because back then, the cheerleaders, you have to lift the cheerleaders, you have to do acrobatics, gymnastics.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it is, I played some sports in high school, a couple of years of football and some soccer, and wrestled a little bit, not very well, and won this little season of some summer baseball. But I wasn't a premier athlete, as my then football coach my senior year, Jim Haluska, said, Crivello, it's a good thing that you're good in theater because your athletic career is going nowhere. But what happened was during that same time of doing all that sports, I was again at the All Boys Pionono and then St. Thomas More. At the time, I would go to the all girls schools, and I would be one of the guys that was in the productions for them, and doing community theater at Sunset Playhouse as well, and things like that, meeting people along the way. Well, along the way, I meet this group of guys who are Marquette High School grads, and I become friends with a bunch of guys from Marquette High, and we share that bond of theater. That eventually leads to getting a theater scholarship at Marquette University. Two of those guys, Jack Hanlon, Dave Griesbach, came up to me one day and said, "Hey, let's go to the old gym. They're having the cheerleader tryouts. Let's go look at the girls." And I said, "We're not going to get in. It's all girl squad." He said, "No, it's the first year they're going co-ed, so we'll be able to go in." We go in, we sit on the sidelines, we're watching it. At the time, the coordinator was a woman by the name of Jackie Stone, lovely Jackie Stone. Jackie was involved in modeling in Milwaukee. Al had gone to Jackie, and who was married to John Stone, who was a former player for Al as well at Marquette, and said, "Jackie, we want to have a certain profile for the cheerleaders. You know what I'm talking about, right? Thinking national TV and cameras and all that, and we want a nice-looking squad." The three of us are the actors sitting on the side. Jackie comes and says, "Yeah, you three guys, why don't you get up and try out?" Well, Jack Hanlon, Bob Griesbach, they could do some tumbling. Me? No. So I get up, I do a bad cartwheel and somersault, and I go to the panel that's making the judgment, and I do a Groucho Marx impersonation and leave. So I'm thinking, all three of us are from the theater, we're having fun. A week later, I get a phone call. And, Tony Crivello, yes, this is Jackie Stone. Congratulations, you made the squad. And I said, "Yeah, right," and I hung up because I thought it was Dave and Jack, pulling my leg. Phone rings again. "Anthony, yeah? Why'd you hang up? Who is this?" And I'm thinking again, it's them. "It's Jackie Stone, you made the squad." I said, "I was there with two other guys." "Yeah, they made the squad too." So we get together and start talking about it, said to Jack and to Dave, and said, "What are we going to do?" And Hanlon says, "Well, we'll have courtside seats.
Yeah.
Let's do it." Yeah. So we wind up being on the squad for that season. And let me tell you, what a great time. And the other thing that plays into this, the play as well. I was 25 feet away from Coach. I had seen him on TV, etc.
Right.
But you're there, and once in a blue moon, you'd have the lucky occasion of having a little conversation with him, which I did. I mean, and the one that is most vivid to me was, at the end of that season, we went down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and played Kentucky, a really big Kentucky team, in their first round, and we got blown out. And I was down in the tunnels of the arena after the game, and I was walking down this tunnel, and Coach was walking in the opposite direction. So I looked at him, and I just kind of shrugged my shoulders, and he said to me, "I knew we were going to lose." And I said, "Why would you say that, Coach?" He said, "Because they're just too big." And here comes Al McGuire. What does he do next year? He goes and gets his aircraft carriers.
Right.
Jerome Whitehead, and then the following season, Bernard Toon.
Yeah.
And now you got more size. And you already had Bo Ellis. And you already had Butch Lees. So you have the nucleus of what was, a tremendous team that was really talented and believed in themselves. And that was the impetus, that in a fist fight in the locker room, that 77 season, that fueled that team,
Tune.
Go.
Yeah, right.
I mean, these become classic stories of what made that championship team in 1977. And I'll say this as well. I went to the 100-year anniversary that was held for Marquette men's basketball.
Great night.
And was it a fantastic evening? I mean, just every speaker and everything. But there with a lot of players, and I was sitting at a table, Bo Ellis and Jim Chones and Butch and a lot, Ulyss Payne, a lot more, too many to mention. And those players en masse said, which gets to me as well, players leaving early before they graduate. If some of those players had hung around during McGuire's era, Jim Chones just being one of them, if they had hung around, Marquette would have won more NCAA championships. That was their absolute belief, because there was a lot of talent that was coming in. And I mean, again, here's that, at the time in 77, this little urban campus, really, not what it is even today. And McGuire going to the streets of New York City and Chicago, recruiting these ball players, street ball players, Blake Crown ball players, and bringing them in, because brilliantly so, like you're seeing today, recreating the uniforms. And the uniforms, as they said, that there's a wonderful documentary about the uniforms. Players like Lord Walton saying, our uniforms were fly. They were cool. And so everybody wanted to go to Marquette. These players wanted to go to
Danny
Marquette.
Pudi and Untucked.
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
that 75 Kentucky game was a kind of a seminal moment in that decade. Marquette had been to the Final Four in 74, and Maurice Lucas left that team. So Bo Ellis was unbelievably good as a freshman with Maurice Lucas kind of as his big brother, the power guy. When Lucas left, Jerry Holman kind of was the power guy, and they had a very good year. I mean, I just have some of the people that Butch Lee in his first year, Lloyd Walton, Earl Tatum, Bo Ellis.
Tatum.
It was a really good. It was really good. Gary Rosenberger.
Rosenberger was again another unsung hero.
And but they came into the Kentucky game, and you knew you were in trouble when Kentucky had Dave Phillips, or Mike Phillips, and
Rick
Roby
on that team.
Rick Roby, and they were 6'9" and about 240 when they made Jerry Holman look small. And Jerry Holman is not a small guy. And the analogy would be how Marquette fans felt after the playing John Morant in Murray State a couple of years ago, where it's like, in Jaws, we need a bigger boat.
Yeah.
You know, that's the comment that Marquette after about 20 points down.
And I have to say that I was a fan of Coach Wojciechowski, Steve. And he was a wonderful guy and a terrific coach as well. But Shaka Smart has also taken this new Marquette team, and there's a very particular philosophy.
A lot of excitement, isn't there?
Oh yeah, a lot of excitement is right, and that we saw it in year one, and I think we're going to see more in year two. I got to say too, Megan Duffy is doing a tremendous job with the women's team as well, and Marquette is well stead. And again, kudos to Coach Al playing in the McGuire Center now and having that arena on campus. I mean, it is, and it continues to move in the direction of being a wonderful urban campus as well. I mean, Marquette's got it together.
When you were a cheerleader back in the day, it was a different era because the cheerleaders, Al McGuire was from Medalist Industries, so he had uniforms for the players, but he also had uniforms for the cheerleaders.
Oh, you had that picture up before, and of the cheerleading squad. If you look at that picture, you see the stripes. Those are the Bumblebee uniforms that the girls are wearing. But the guys don't have any uniform on because we took that picture prior to the season, and that was again the first year that they were going co-ed. So they knew basically how they were going to design the uniforms. But the girl cheerleaders, they were wearing the old Bumblebee uniforms that they had. Again, that was part of those many designs that Coach Al had come up with. And those uniforms on the players were outlawed in 1972 because the NCAA and the officials said the stripes created a psychedelic, dizzying effect on the opposition, and that the referees had a hard time reading the names and numbers. That's why those uniforms were gone.
No, and you go back to Danny Pudi's Untucked. It was the advantage that the other coaches complained about, that look at Marquette as a marketing advantage because Al works for Medalist. And you could wear
And
those.
how many NCAA teams are doing the exact same thing now?
Now, exactly. It's like Al was Nike before Oregon and Nike.
Exactly.
Is basically what that.
Under Armour, same thing.
But
Fellas, if I might just, this is a great quote. You've got it, and you reel off again just a series of McGuire statements. Nobody's ever had a tapioca feeling about me. He's broken all the commandments except the one against murder and would need a deaf priest for his confession.
Yeah, I mean that's classic Al. Classic Al. And the play is filled with these philosophies, so that, as I say, the reluctant wives and girlfriends go, "Oh my God, this is fascinating." As well. I'm going to tell you another thing that happens with the show is that you have fathers and grandfathers bringing the children and grandchildren to see the show. And we do have a little bit of blue language, but they bring them, it's tame, they bring them because they go, I want you to listen to the philosophies of this man and how he lived his life. And there's something to be learned here. And it's absolutely true, absolutely true.
Anyone who met Al at any level, you came away a better person. And to your point earlier, I described him when he passed us. In his own way, he was a spiritual man. He really was. The way he treated people and.
Absolutely. I mean, there are photographs that you can see online of him with the team, whether it is praying in the locker room or the whole team at Jesu, even at the Jesu, or at the chapel, Joan of Arc Chapel on campus as well, that he was there. This is a man that was raised Irish Catholic. And that also plays into his own sense of guilt and what he is battling through his life sometimes when he goes, well, maybe I'm not quite walking the line and I've broken all the commandments about 100 times. I mean, he openly admitted it too, But, also a good family man in his own way. And, and loving his children as well, and his wife. From that standpoint, it is the common man who's walking down that road and going, what is right for me, but is what is right for my family, and let me tell you too, Billy Packer would talk about stories about McGuire and how clever he was to get a meal. A free meal, it's that kind of stuff too, which is absolutely charming, and I'll tell you, knock on wood, we are hoping throughout this run, and we are hoping specifically opening night, we're going to have some special guests. So if you come and see the show on any given evening, if you come and see the show on any given evening, you just don't know who might be in the audience with you.
And if you're just tuning in, again, Marquette basketball show right here on My 24 with John Dodds. I'm Tom Pippins. We are so honored to have Anthony Crivello, the Tony Award-winning actor, and he is going to be in McGuire. He is McGuire for 90 minutes, July 14th through 31st, coming to Next Act Theater, and it is awesome. And again, written by the late, great Dick Enberg. What a broadcaster, unparalleled in that game. And again, this program is brought to you by Moonlight Graham, proud sponsor of the program. Moonlight Graham Modern Dental Benefits. John, this is like the 90 minutes I saw with you went by like this. A half hour is going by like this. So you've got about 4 or 5 minutes in this program to go. So get anything out you want with Tony. Maybe we can have him back again sometime.
Sure, I'm more intrigued.
I'll tell you what. The game plan is we're doing the show. We're launching a tour of this show.
Oh.
And so, again, you never know. Yeah. And the Next Act Theater, David Cesarini, been wonderful as far as giving us a semi-permanent home. So there's always the opportunity that we could be coming back. So
the door would be wide open for sure.
Sure. I'm intrigued by your cheerleader stories. You were a cheerleader for 1 year, and then you decided to stop.
Well, I didn't decide to stop. What happened was that my second year, things had gone really well. The cheerleading squad prior to that season had never been ranked. And I came in with these, and it was my two compatriots, Griesbach and Hanlon too, who, the girls were saying, okay, here's the cheer we're going to do. Come on, Marquette, let's go. Come on, Marquette. And we said, no, we're not doing that. What? We're not doing that. You guys can do that. We're not doing that. What do you want to do? Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start at one end of the arena. We're going to create, and we're going to get with this side of the arena to cheer for us, the old Milwaukee arena where they played. This side to cheer for this guy. We're going to race to the other top of the arena during the timeout. Or during a timeout, we're going to sing Christmas carols. What? Yeah, we're going to sing Christmas carols. We started incorporating all these other ideas. And we were ranked 13th in the nation that year.
Wow.
And and it just launched a new era of Marquette cheerleading as well. And it was a wonderful thing. I said it wasn't my idea. What happened was I was called in. I was a theater fine arts major, in the Department of Communications, and one of the advisors called me in and said, "So what are you doing this year?" And I was on scholarship, a work scholarship. I said, "Are you going to?" And I said, "What do you mean? Or are you going to cheerlead?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "No." And I said, "What do you mean no?" Said, "You're either an actor or you're a cheerleader, but you can't be doing both." I said, "Well, I'm handling both. It seems to be okay. You got to make a decision." So I had to go back to Jackie and said, I can't be on the squad. They want me to be more devoted to the theater as well. And it was
that turned out okay.
Yeah, it did. It did. But there's always that regret because
yes.
I've said before, my bad cartwheel and somersault. I was starting to learn tumbling. Yeah. And so it was another skill, which is again applicable even to theatrical and what you could do. So it was unfortunate that got put aside. Yes, it didn't turn out badly, and I had wonderful teachers when I was there at Marquette as well. But you always go, geez, what if?
Sure,
what if?
Sure.
Well, that year ended with the loss to Kentucky by over 20 points, and the score or the game wasn't as close as the score indicated. It was, I think Lloyd Walton had 9 or 10 turnovers, and Bo Ellis they got physically beaten up. So McGuire with one phone call gets Jerome Whitehead. Those were the days when you can make one phone call and get Jerome Whitehead.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and the reputation that he had as well. He was able to do that, and he was a tremendous recruiter. And tip of the hat too to Hank Raymonds and Rick Majerus.
Always.
I mean,
Yeah.
tremendous assistant coaches, and their reputations speak for themselves. And brilliantly that McGuire had put together that staff, too. I mean, again, all brilliant strokes.
And that year, Butch Lee scored about 8 points a game. And people say, who's the only person that can keep Michael Jordan under 30? It was Dean Smith. Well, they put Butch Lee, had so much talent in there that they fit him in, and Butch Lee actually decided to bide his time, and he was a team guy. So you had unbelievable talent, and you could see
NCAA Player of the Year in his senior year. I mean,
Right.
that says it all.
Right.
First Puerto Rican in the NBA. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that was. Any other remembrances of the players on campus? Not only were they good players, they were cool.
I mean,
They were cool. They were cool.
These guys, again, here's another story. Somehow, during that era, a couple of players had cars. And so somehow. And one day, knock on the dorm room door, and Mr. Ellis, Mr. Walton, we see here you have $2,500 worth of parking tickets. Come with us. Take them down to Coach. Coach, we got 2 players here with all these parking tickets. What are you going to do? Gentlemen, just give me a minute. Who does he call? He calls Judge Bill Gennaro. And I forget, there was another Irish attorney that was a judge in town. He calls him, and the situation was resolved. Somehow magically resolved. And then Coach calls these 2 guys on the carpet and said, what are you doing? What are you doing? I mean, just story after story like that. As I say, I mean, the thing that was also so magical about Al McGuire was that, I said before, so many people had an Al McGuire story. And they were always funny, poignant, touching. I mean, and even in the beginning, here's a coach in Al who would go down to the children's hospital on his own, unannounced, and talk to these kids, try and give them some inspiration. Little did he know, full circle, 40 years later, that he would be facing the same fate, battling cancer. And here's a guy from the philosophies that he learned from his mother, who would not go to a doctor. He would go to the janitor, whether it was when he was recruiting, because his mother said to him, the janitor has all the secrets. Right. And would go to the janitor at Children's Hospital and look him in the eye and then say, what am I in for? What am I going to be facing? I got chills saying that too. I mean, it is, again, a common man and the wisdom of the common man. This is a man, before it was popularized, who had attention deficit disorder and could only read on a 7th grade level, yet somehow managed to get through St. John's University, and then also, playing for the Knicks, and then one season before they became the defunct Baltimore Bullets team, and
then mark on defense, right?
Oh,
Those
absolutely.
teams were that way too.
I mean, was the original, as he called himself, the original scrambled egger.
Yes.
That says it all.
John, how about one more question from you for Tony Crivello?
Any other, getting back to the cheerleaders, I like to focus on the cheerleaders.
Yeah, you love those cheerleaders, boy.
Now,
a lot of them do.
Breaking news there.
They used to have names on their backs.
Right.
And
Names and
I don't know
nicknames.
if they decided to take them off because there's worried about security or stalking or something, but
Yeah,
not that I remember, but it was Sandy and Coco and Connie and the Trishas and Martha, and we had.
And mine was Groucho.
And we had Gail
great.
Pudvin and I'm trying to think,
Joni Bowman.
Joni
And
Bowman.
I've known Joni.
Wonderful lady.
Oh yeah, she's terrific and extremely talented lady in her own right. She was on that cheerleading squad too. You can see her in those pictures.
Yes.
And and was had conversations with Coach L as well. I mean, she was part of that. I've known Joni since she was at St. Mary's Academy.
Fantastic.
And lovely, lovely lady.
Yes.
She went to QFM, I think, didn't she?
Yes, exactly. She went into broadcasting. She was
Yeah.
on radio broadcasting as well for many, many years. And I'll tell you what, I think Joni Bowman should be on radio broadcasting this day. I think that she's another one. It's the common woman.
Yeah.
I mean, she's got that fiber in her. Great heart, great soul. She's a lovely lady. It's a lot of, I mean, all of them. We were kids back then, but just a great group of people.
He's a
top to
Tony
bottom.
Award-winning actor. He's a former Marquette cheerleader. He has Al McGuire stories like you wouldn't believe, and he is Al McGuire in McGuire, coming to Next Act Theater July 14th through 31st. As we wrap up what has been a delightful time, we're so grateful to you for making it and those who made it possible, as John said earlier. Just a comment for people out there that to entice them, as if this is enough, to get out there and watch.
There's a
McGuire.
limited amount of performances. I said before, it's only 152 seats. Yes, we could be coming back, but my advice is don't wait. Don't wait. Go out and get those tickets now. It's www.nextact.org, or if you go Next Act Theater, which is it's in Walker's Point, just adjacent on Water Street, adjacent to the Third Ward. It's a beautiful theater. I would say to you, our ticket sales are pretty healthy right now, so you want to make a move sooner rather than later. And as I say, it's a delightful evening of theater, and you never know who might be sitting next to you.
And for those who weren't around at that time, to get to know Al McGuire, they will through the many gifts and talents.
It is
you
an
have.
education. It really is an education for young and old, and to be able to go back and relive those days too as well. I mean, I have to say, in these troubled times that we have in this country and around the globe, that it's a wonderful respite for 90 minutes to hear this kind of simple philosophies of the way this man lived his life as well. And there is something for all of us, I don't care what age you are, for us to learn. And I mean, I learn it every single time I do the show over and over again.
JD, John Dodds, I'm so thankful to you for making these contacts. It makes it super on this show.
Well, great. And like Anthony, I went to an all-boys high school, hence my focus on the cheerleaders.
Yes. Yeah. John Dodds will be coming to watch you in McGuire with the cheerleaders, but he will have his wife Sheila with him.
Well, listen, we're inviting all the cheerleaders. We're doing it in the process right now. We're inviting people from Marquette University. We're inviting.
And you said special guests, right?
Some special guests as well, and we're hoping that Shaka and the male and female teams of this era are going to come down and see this show as well.
This has been a delight. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Anthony Crivello, but I think we all know him now, including you out there watching the show, as Tony. Well, everyone, that's another edition of the Marquette Basketball Show, brought to you by Moonlight Graham, proud sponsor of the program here on My 24, Moonlight Graham, modern dental benefits. So for now, for John Dodds and our producer Jason Ruck, I'm Tom Pippins. Thanks, everybody. A special thanks to Anthony Crivello. Go Marquette, and God bless.